Hi again, it's me, Miss Shawn. I love my hair. I decided to let it down today, and it's like super bouncy and super cool, and it shakes and shimmies. So, okay. Anyway, enough of that. Um, so today I want to talk about some mushy stuff, emotions. It's a pretty big topic. Um, and this is true in books and movies and television and stuff as it is in real life. It's just something that I noticed. And even me, a couple of years ago, I wouldn't have been able to revel in my hair. I haven't actually liked it since, well, no, I've never been in love with my hair like I am recently. It actually only started last year when I started well, somebody showed me a different way to care for my hair, so that was pretty awesome, and I sort of healed the rift that way. But anyways, to get into emotions, as something, I don't know, I like to think of it as kind of an emotional wave. I'm a very visual person. I have a couple different forms of synesthesia, but most of them, my sense is tied into my visual system, or inside my head, I'll get actual visual images of things. So it just helps me to, always put things in sort of visual terms, because, there you go, if I can see it, I can better manipulate it. Anyway, so I noticed this pretty early on, and it seems as if most people, they learn to send their emotions past each other. So what I mean by that is, they tend to tell their friends, more than their spouses, or strangers more than their family. Basically they tell these people that they're not as close to more intimate or more honest details about themselves than the people who are supposed to be close to them. So, we're getting better at growing knowledge in new technologies, but we don't seem to really know how to be honest about our feelings. And this ends up causing a lot of problems, because emotions still find a way out. They will always find a way to express themselves. In this instance, they just tend to be fired at those who don't deserve it. So everything that we do and that we feel, it has a physical counterpart. It's just that most of the time people don't consciously notice that they actually notice it. For instance, did you know that you can tell if a person is trustworthy or not just by the smell of them? And then, of course, humans spend so much time disguising their natural smells that now we mostly just confuse each other. Cologne and perfumes and stuff like that, which is why for me, I'm actually glad that I'm allergic to things that are scented like that. So people know they can trust me because they can actually smell my natural scent. I still wear deodorant, it's just unscented. So, okay, alright. Anyway, people, they seem to love to talk, but the vast majority of communication is actually nonverbal. And with all of the ways that humans cover, hide, and mislead, and how those signals come off, is it any wonder that so many of us find ourselves nervous around other people? We're literally disguising ourselves when we go out in public. Many people display themselves as they wish to be seen and not as they actually are. But there still remain ways to see through this and to find the original underneath the veneer. This can be given away in tics, in rhythm, in smell, or in the emotions you feel. Poker players are quite familiar with this. They say somebody has a tell. They have a tell when they're, when they're lying or when they're doing well, or when they're bluffing. So they get good at reading stuff like that. But most people, they don't know what any of that is. But anyway, so the more often someone hangs around you, the more that ably they can accurately guess your emotional state at any given time. And most of the information that they're gathering is actually your non-verbal cues. So even when we're just guessing about strangers, we tend to be pretty accurate. And this is one reason why politicians, actors, and others who are in the spotlight, they're taught for hours, days, and months how to control their body language. They work, so hard on that. And even then, their micro expressions can still give them away. And I'm telling you all of this to say that it's extremely hard to hide how you're feeling. If people are paying attention, they should be able to pick up on it. And so the way that I envision it, I talked about visualizing it, is that each person, they have a particular frequency, a particular emotional frequency. So they have their own normal sort of vibration, the way that their voice sounds, their affect, their stance, and their behavior are all within a normal range for them. And then whenever someone is off, or whenever something is off about a person, we sense this. Even if we can't exactly pinpoint what it is or how we know, we can tell that their frequency is off. They're not vibrating correctly with themselves. And it's usually the cause of some kind of deception of one kind or another. It may not be actually as big as a lie. It could also just be a burden that, that they want to keep private. Or it could be, just a bad idea that they have. And magicians, mystics, and mediums, they become masters at reading body language and alternate signs from people because they pay attention. And I find it a great shame that those who would finagle money, time, or resources from people can read honest emotions better than the people who are supposed to matter most to us. The con man is so good with emotions that he can manipulate them in order to get what he wants. A lot of us seem left without recourse, without satisfactory ways to defend ourselves, without being able to be most honest with the people who are closest to us. So some of us end up fearing emotions, and especially fearing strong emotions. We try to keep them in check for the sake of work, for the sake of one another, for the sake of our reputation. And until we can deal with our emotions healthily, we'll keep hurting one another, keep falling for the con man or the abuser, and keep feeling lost and alone. And I could never understand how intelligent people could keep falling in love with terrible people, or why good people keep losing money and goods to con men, or why being emotional was always seen as being a weakness. Most of us are left looking at what emotions devolve into when they have no proper outlet, into jealousy, rage, psychosis, despair, and paralyzing fear. And, those are the absolute extremes. When you hold something in, you tend to, there you go, when you're trying hard not to look at something, the only thing that you're doing is making it congeal where you can't see it. You're just building the pressure on whatever it is. So if you're trying not to like someone, or if you're trying not to think about something, it actually, in some ways, you literally start to define it. So you're pressing it and pressing it and pressing it into an atom, and you put enough pressure on that, and of course it explodes into this horrible, unhealthy thing. That's why I say, if you notice, like, a 12-year-old is attractive because they're shaped a certain way, they're shaped more like an adult. If you keep looking at them and saying, oh, I'm not supposed to notice that, they're growing into an adult, and you keep pressing it away and keep pressing it away like something's wrong with it, or like just because you notice that means that, oh, only, perverts do that and stuff like that. Well, if you think that those things are automatically connected, then they're going to be connected in your mind, and that's going to keep cycling and cycling and cycling until those are inevitably bound together. And then because you notice, you actually end up doing something and hurting this 12-year-old. It has to become a reality in some way. You end up hurting them because you paired those together, you put them together, and you congealed them together. You didn't just deal with it, say, oh yeah, this 12-year-old's growing into an adult. Okay, if she were older, I'd be attracted to her, and just leave it at that. Like, you can, but people tie the aesthetic to certain actions. Like, it's so automatic that it ends up becoming this horrible thing. But on top of that, it's like the only emotion that we're allowed to feel, that it's safe to feel, is fear. And fear without any actual particular source. It's just like this sort of general panic or dread of everything. People become unable to experience good or positive emotions without another one dragging them back down. Other people start burdening their friends, their family, or strangers with their emotions because they don't know how to healthily deal with them. And feelings are treated like these things that are passed around, like infections. They're things that can be dumped on or taken from one another. Emotions are not transferable, and they're not transitive. Only the person experiencing them can deal with them effectively. You have to own your emotions. You can't confuse them for someone else's reaction, and you can't confuse them for a moral stance, and you can't ignore them. Our emotions are like super quick thoughts. They sum up our beliefs about something else or ourselves, and as our beliefs change, our emotions respond in different ways. They teach us more about ourselves than anything else. It is possible to acknowledge them without being sucked into them. Remember, you still have a mind that can think. So try not to let your emotions decide, because that's not what they're for. Let your mind, your heart decide, and the appropriate emotions will accompany it. No matter what you're feeling, you're alive. Be honest with the people who deserve it, but don't make them pay for what you're feeling. It's not their responsibility to change your emotional state. So, in what ways can you or do you already own your emotions? Have you ever fired an emotion at someone, whether that's love, anger, or fear, and expected them to deal with it? Has anyone ever taken advantage of your emotions to try to trick you? And what do you think we could all learn about our emotions, and how can we channel them in productive ways? Basically, how can we be more appropriate about the ways we express and own our emotions? Because, let's face it, we need to own our shit, and our emotions are only ours to deal with. So, let me know what you think, and let me know how we can better express that in our stories and in the media, because we definitely need more of it. And if you see my my post on emotional intelligence, you'll understand why this is such a big issue for me. So yeah, we'll see you next time. And love your hair, because it's awesome.